Hey everybody, welcome back to the Chaotic Little Book Corner. My name's Acacia. Today I'm going to be doing the My Pleasure book tag, which was created by Steve Partridge. I will link his channel down below in the description, as well as Amy Poole's channel I will link down below. She was the one who tagged me, and I'm very grateful for that, so thank you, Amy. I really appreciate that. If you have not checked out her channel, go do it now. She's a newer booktuber and she's wonderful. I absolutely adore her. Steve, I have not watched a lot of his videos, but this is a great tag, and I have to admit I am impressed with that. So I would check out his channel as well just to see what else is there. He's a smaller channel, so go give him some love. So this talks about pleasures and things that are a pleasure to do or to have, I guess, would be the way to explain it. And let's dive right in. So the first one is Think, a book that made you think hard. And this one I didn't really give a lot of context to when I first reviewed it and read it. This is Trainwreck, The Women We Love to Hate, Mock, and Fear, and Why by Sadie Doyle. I was slightly intrigued by this when I first read it and felt really interested in the subject matter, and I felt very strongly that this treatment of women is one of the reasons that Hillary Clinton lost the election. So it validated a thought and fear that I had on the way that women were treated in society, and that was great. But as a result, I ended up thinking about it more, and it ended up kind of checking me on a couple of women that I myself politically disagreed with, and how I was judging them and what I was judging them on. Now, at this time, the women that I politically disagree with, I still politically disagree with them. However, at this point in time, I am no longer feeling like they are witchy or bitchy or, you know, aggressive or evil. Like, there's no feeling of them being bad people. I just don't agree with them. But prior to this book, I think I would have put them into the bad people category, and I really would have believed that they were malevolent and just evil, rather than have identified them as people with different variations of character and depth. And I don't think I do that for men, or I didn't do that for men when I would judge them as people that I disagreed with politically. I believed that men made evil decisions based on things that they would decide for women's reproductive rights, for women, or for those who are immigrants, and I definitely agreed that their politics were wrong and evil, but them as people I had more respect for, and I really needed to check myself on that. And now that I have, I feel much more at ease with myself, and I feel a lot more in touch with my feminism, in that I feel more like I can disagree with another woman and find her opinion to be the wrong one, but I don't have to judge her as a person because her opinion doesn't agree with mine. So that one kind of got the ball rolling and kind of checked me on quite a few things. It also checked me on how I view celebrities, such as Kim Kardashian or Britney Spears, where I look at them and I see vapid or kind of bimbo-y kind of people, but there has to be some intelligence in there for them to have succeeded as well as they have. They didn't just succeed from nothing. There is intelligence in there, and there is substance within them. They are people, and I needed to check myself on that pretty quick. So I'm glad I did. Love, a book that broke or mended your heart, and this broke and mended my heart. This is Hunger by Roxane Gay. I was lucky enough to purchase a copy of this that is signed by Roxane. That just makes me so happy. It is one of the books that I thought was missing when I first moved into this new house, and I was beyond upset because I thought I had lost it, but thank goodness I had not. This book is one of the only books I have read where weight is actively addressed as a physical response to trauma. And that is and always will be one of my key points as to why I am overweight. My response to trauma was to eat for comfort, and as a result, I ended up gaining a ton of weight, and I fluctuated from, at my highest, I've been 250, and at my lowest, I've been 145 as an adult. So I've fluctuated within 100 pounds, not a healthy scenario and not good for my body. Roxanne is definitely heavier than I am, but I understand how she got there, and I understand her response that she is explaining within this book to a tragic event that occurred to her. She was gang raped as a child, around the same age I was when I was raped, and it changed her perspective of herself and her want to be attractive and her want to feel comfortable within her own body. And that in and of itself is a heart-wrenching and gut-punching kind of scenario, and it definitely changes the way that you can view a person who you see who might be a little overweight. It can change your perspective of what that person might be going through and how that person may be responding to the world. And trauma doesn't just have to be rape. It can be anything. It can be, you know, a loss of a family member, a medical procedure. It can be a experience in war. It can be a ton of different things, and to respond with the idea of putting food into your body is almost a natural response for some people, and that would accentuate the weight that you could gain and lose you control if all you're trying to do is control the sadness through food. I thought this was brilliant, and it mended and clung to my heart, and it just made me feel so much love and affection for Roxane Gay. And at this point, all I want to do is read all of her work and meet her in person and say thank you, because she has given me so much perspective on myself and so much perspective on the reality of the world, and it's been an amazing shift for me. Eat, a book that nourishes you. Now, I could have used this as the next question as well, but I picked this one instead. This is Furiously Happy by Jenny Lawson. You guys know what this book is. I talk about it quite frequently. It is a book about mental health. It is funny, heartwarming. It is beautifully done. It's not beautifully written, but it's beautifully done. It's a great feel-good kind of story. It doesn't leave you feeling drained from your idea of being mentally ill. It doesn't leave you feeling like you're hopeless for being mentally ill. It also doesn't leave you feeling like you failed as a person by being mentally ill. It really kind of puts you into the situation where you can see the humor within your own illness and your own experience, and that's just such a wonderful and nourishing quality to have in a book, to be able to see the humor within the sadness. It's such a big part of happiness to be able to find charm and wit and sarcasm within things that make you suffer or harm yourself in some way, whether that be mentally or physically. It's just really astounding, and I love this book. If you haven't read it yet, I really recommend it, and I think it's great. For somebody who has or doesn't have mental illness, it's great for both. It kind of gives you perspective on what the mentally ill are dealing with. It also just gives you perspective on what somebody with anxiety would deal with on a regular basis, whether that be generalized anxiety disorder or Laugh, a book that brought you a little comic relief. That would be Unmentionable by Therese O'Neill. I adore this book. This book was a book on Victorian England women, Victorian England, yeah, Victorian age women. It does focus mainly on the white middle-class woman who was living a life that was pretty normal and without much trouble, as much as there could be less trouble for them. It doesn't focus on some of the bleaker aspects of women, but it does focus on the rights that were not there and the troubles that women had to go through for their bodies, such as periods and sex and masturbation. It was really interesting. It really took a punch, but it just does it in such a funny, charming way that I really enjoyed it. I highly recommend it if you haven't picked it up. And I definitely think that if you're ever interested in what those women go through in your Victorian novels that you love so much, this is a great one to pick up, because a lot of the Victorian novels we read would have been women in that bracket of existence. So there's that. Sex, a book that explores and contains sexuality that doesn't make you cringe. Now, this one is a little bit of a stretch. I was not sure what to put in for this one. There are several nonfictions that I have read where sexuality is discussed, and in none of those do I feel uncomfortable. But I wanted to pick a fiction because I wanted to pick a fiction that was more addressing something of sexuality in a more natural state. And so I picked The Parable of the Sower by Octavia E. Butler. There is elements of rape in this, which is not a comfortable sexuality to discuss, period. But there are moments of tender sex and tender affection between two characters during an apocalyptic setting, which was really interesting to kind of watch, to find safety and security and physical attraction in a time when the world is kind of crumbling and falling apart around you is a really interesting concept to kind of delve into. To find that you're able to put yourself first and the world kind of aside for a moment in time, and to dive back into that luxury of having intimacy is a really interesting concept. I really enjoyed it, and I found that it allowed me to kind of step out of the depravity and the kind of depressing conditions of the world and stay in a moment of peace and tranquility. Whether or not I myself find sex a peaceful and tranquil thing is irrelevant. I find that this just allows you to have that moment of intimacy within the characters that was really profound and well adapted, and I really enjoyed it. Rest, a book that gave you peace and reflection or just calms you down. This is definitely one that I adore now. This is Shirley Jackson, A Rather Haunted Life by Ruth Franklin. I went into this biography knowing nothing about Shirley Jackson, having read one of her books and being just curious about her life. I am now at the point where I want to read all of Shirley Jackson's work. That is the plan for this year, or at least all the ones I can get my hands on, because I can't get my hands on all of her work at the same time. That would involve buying short story collections that definitely duplicate certain short stories, and I don't know if I can justify that on my shelf at this time. Eventually I will have all of Shirley Jackson's work on my shelf. That is a promise. But this in and of itself is a book that I fell in love with, and it really left me feeling as if I found a kindred spirit and an understanding within a woman that I didn't really know I could understand. It left me feeling like I was wanting to find more out about her life, and to understand her more and to have a conversation with her. This is also a book that I own on audio, so when I'm feeling tense or overwhelmed, I'll throw this audiobook on. So I'm on my listen number 3 of it, I think. And I don't listen to it consistently. I just listen to it in spurts, and I've gotten to the point now where I know where I am because I've listened to it so many times. But it just puts me at ease, and it gives me this sense of calm that really allows me to kind of continue on with my day. Shirley Jackson herself is not the most calming of writers. She writes very gritty and horrific stories, but I find them really soothing and very controlled, and I find them to be just really immersive reads that I adore and can just dive into and not feel afraid of them. I just finished We Have Always Lived in a Castle, and though it was a little heart-wrenching and it had some more kind of depressing qualities to it, I found myself really comforted by it, and I really enjoyed it, and I can't wait to continue reading her works. I think this month I am reading one of her nonfictions, which is her memoirs, and I'm really excited about that. And then the last one is Experience, a book that introduced you to a new subject or shifted your perspective. This one is kind of interesting to hold up for you guys in this scenario. This is Holly Madison's Down the Rabbit Hole. Now, a lot of people would probably perceive this as a bubbly, bubblegum, kind of nonchalant, trashy nonfiction, really no substance to it, very, very low quality. And you know what? You'd be wrong. You'd be wrong, because this really talks about feminism from a perspective of a woman who is not outrightly a feminist, who has feminist views but had to learn them the hard way, who was treated poorly and abrasively, who was abused by the patriarchy, who was given this idea of what success looked like and lied to about what success looked like, and then trying to come back from that and feeling so deprived and so sad and so depressed within her life that she contemplated suicide. She's really honest in this and really, really upfront about her feelings and emotions. And the thing about this book that really just kind of struck me was how much I had perceived Playboy bunnies to be shallow and vapid and uninteresting. I really thought of them as just blah women that really didn't deserve my time. And this one I read honestly because I had heard mixed reviews on it. I was curious about it and I liked what Holly Madison looked like, and so I got really shallow and decided one day I was going to read this as a kind of shallow read to not really get too deep into it. But it ended up kind of shifting my views on the perspective of the Playboy bunny, of the woman with the dumb blonde attitude, on the woman who is just considered eye candy. It was really interesting and really deeper than I expected, and I really appreciate it. So those are all the books. I'm going to tag Amanda Center and Marissa from Blatantly Bookish, and I think that's all I'm going to tag for right now. If you like this video and you want to do the tag, consider yourself tagged anyway. I would be happy to see anybody link their video of this tag down below in my comments. I'm very excited to see everybody else's responses. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you loved it, click that subscribe button down below. I will talk to you in the comments, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.